have a very special guest for you tonight.
Hello, we've been expecting you.
This is not a test. Your government and corporate overlords have implemented new measures for your own health and safety. We are just following orders.
Everything is going to be fine.
I'd like to introduce...
Welcome everyone to another If by Whiskey. We have my co-host Jake the Bake. Get it, Jake? Because I just found out something cool about you, man. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing excellent, man. I was just jamming.
And I got to do this. Sorry, hold on one second. There we go.
Oh, I
that
love that
better.
piano jazz intro. It's nice and it kind of sets the vibe.
It does. This is the beauty thing about it. What I think we have set up is the intro's all vibey and cool and calm and smooth. And then by the end, it's like, blah! Because like we get built up over the.
No, absolutely.
The
it's a good set the expectations low, then we can ramp them up as we move.
Yeah.
What's new, man?
Stretch,
I see you got like the elephant in the room here. You got multiple cameras bouncing here.
Heck yeah, man. So I have invested heavily into our show, sir. Our project we are taking off here, sir. It is going to be pretty banging. But the cool thing is I put a bid in on a second Sony A6100. So the A6100 is this one actually right there that I was pointing at. But I've got a ZV-E10 right there, and I've got this crappy A5100 over here. But that A5100 has been glitchy on me. So I just bought a new one to replace that one. I'm going to have a 3 with a 4th camera at the ready with views from sides you're not even going to see, man. It's going to be like you're going to get up nose shot. I'm going to have some crazy, maybe a colon shot. I might even get one of those.
That'd be great. We need like a inner space
Shrink me.
Inner space camera. No, man. I'm happy to be here. It's been a hell of a week so far, and it's only half over. Just kind of trying to stay up on what's going on, man, with the family stuff and all. But watching, apparently, we're going to be going to war with Venezuela now. Like nobody could see that coming. It seems like we have just been kind of strung along. Hey, I'm the no new wars. You know, we're the peace ticket. And then now it's just regime change like 5.0. And, they got weapons. We got to go. It's like we haven't heard this shit 20 years ago, you know, with Iraq. It's like the WMD thing all over again. And all the MAGA, you know, switch the chip out. All the MAGA red hats are like, all right, war is good now. It's cool. Let's go. And I don't understand it. I don't understand what's going on and how everybody can just pivot so hard other than just to lick the boots with the fealty. But that's where I'm at this week.
You clearly don't understand. They hate us for our freedom. Duh. I mean, come on, man. Where have you been? Where have you been this last 3 minutes while they manufactured our consent? And I made the call. Narco-terrorist. And look, they've already done it with Antifa. But narco-terrorist sounds phonetically very similar to a narco-terrorist. What are you and I considered, sir?
Very true.
What are you and I considered?
A in front of that, and you're like, oh, wait a minute.
Right. How quickly do you think these jamokes and lugheads who actually bought into this part already of Venezuela are going to go, oh, narco-terrorists equal a narco-terrorist. They're all the same. They're terrorists. And boom, 100%. It's over. And it's going to become domestic. The homegrowns are next. I'm a first generation. My grandfather was a Nazi soldier. Who do you think they're going to be coming after with their anti-Semitism?
Oh, you're first on that. I'm surprised they didn't nominate you for Anti-Semite of the Year.
I'm the first on the homegrown list.
I will say, on a positive note, I've been nerding out in my middle-aged glory, and I've been watching this documentary on PBS called The American Revolution.
Oh,
and
cool.
It's like a multi-part Ken Burns thing. You know, the guy that did baseball and all the. Yeah, it's super good, but it's really long. So I got a 9-year-old daughter who was, you know, getting ready for bed last night on her tablet, and I'm like, hey, put your tablet down, come out here and give me 5 minutes. I want you to watch this. And she sat there for like 40 minutes and watched the whole thing with me until bedtime. And it's pretty captivating. It's really well done. Apparently they spent a ton of money, probably USAID money, making this thing. but it's really well done. And I finished the first, I don't know how many episodes there are, but the first one was like 2 hours. The next one's like 2 hours. So in typical Ken Burns fashion, it's probably like a 10-part, 2 hours a piece, endeavor, but it's really good. So if you want to feel patriotic, if you want to feel like, hell yeah, man, this takes your, like, there's the stuff that, the Lexington, the Concord, the shot heard around the world, all that stuff. But then there's like the between the line stuff on the nuance, and they really nail it. So I can't suggest it highly enough, for sure.
That is a really cool thing, man. I love that. So your 9-year-old sat through this, like,
Yeah.
captivated for 40 minutes. That's
And some of
impressive.
it's like, paintings, like documentary style. It's like a painting with voiceover and narrative, and like the
Okay.
camera
Very
pans
cool.
one side to the other, and it's nothing. But then there's some actual live action stuff too. She was all about it, man. She sat and kind of was glued to it for a minute until it was bedtime. So I'm gonna try and get her to get it on the next episode, which is like 1776, and Second Continental Congress, and it's been fun nerding out on it. But that kind of, I guess, if you want to segue, that takes us from where our country started to apparently where it's going to end with if our guest that's on tonight doesn't get his way and Davos takes over the world. I want to kick it to you and let you bring on our guest. I've spoken with him before. He's smarter than both of us put together. Super well read, super articulate guy, but just honestly, just super fun to talk to. So I'm going to give it to you and let you do your thing.
All right, my friend. Now, before we continue, if your daughter asked for a musket for Christmas, you may have gone too far with this thing.
She's already got a
or you
BB
haven't gone
gun.
far enough. I'm not sure. Cause like, it'd be fun to, like, how to load a musket and, like, actually do the thing. And like my first musket. Are we up for like a new toy? My first musket? Maybe we can
We
make
should. Yeah, we should. No,
right.
she got a BB gun last year. So, I mean, maybe we're ready to graduate to muskets.
So we're going to bring our special guests up here. Let me just pull up a couple things here real quick. Swiss sides threw me off. Salutations, fellas. That's from Rich. Welcome, Rich. Watch the Peru Mummy episode last night on a
Oh yeah, I
huge
saw some of
channel.
that.
Oh
The
yeah.
tridactyls or whatever.
I have not watched the Mummy thing, but I started watching the Rogan thing, and obviously I shared a little bit about my crazy, but we're going to get way deeper in that. Now, without further ado, let us get to our gentleman, Teddy. Teddy Pierce is a writer, speaker, and political commentator, hell-bent on upending the globalist agenda. Teddy's the author of the explosive new book, Dethrone Davos, Save America. Available now on Amazon in print, Kindle, and on Audible. With a philosophy background in Aristotle's realism and St. Thomas Aquinas' natural law ethics, Teddy brings deep intellectual firepower to the fight for American sovereignty, truth, and liberty. He's a relentless advocate for constitutional government and the philosophy of realism, as well as an outspoken critic of collectivist ideologies, relativism, and the creeping influence of global control. The website is dethronedavos.com. Dethrone Davos is available for free to Kindle Unlimited users, also available on Audible, as well as Amazon in hardcover and paperback. Teddy, how you doing, my friend? Welcome to If by Whiskey. I am so honored to hear this. I listened to your first podcast with Jake. Welcome. Tell us about yourself, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a great intro. It makes me sound really smart and erudite. So I appreciate that.
That is like the best bio I've heard in a long time, man.
Yeah. Well, I am a writer. I don't like this. I have a degree in philosophy, but if you say you're a philosopher, you just sound like a stuck-up prig. So I just say my educational background is in philosophy. But yeah, I regular American guy, kind of came into politics and into the fore from just being a nerd about American politics from an early age and being fascinated with our form of government. But really, like the what radicalized you moment for me was seeing. I grew up without a TV. And so when I was in college in my formative years, I watched my roommate's TV. And it was the first time that I had seen programming. It was the first time I'd ever seen cable programming. And it threw me for a loop, but I was very secular minded at the time and didn't think much of it. And of course now, became a young parent, and I'm having to screen things for my kids. And, the stuff we grew up with is child's play compared to the true programming and propaganda that we have there. And so that's really where I came into this. And, that it turns out it's a really, really long thread, and the culture war is just a really small part of a much bigger game. And the more you pull on that thread, the more you see how much control there is and how small that ring is at the very center of it that holds that power.
Yeah, right, nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. It's tough, but I have 3 kids. One's an adult now, but the 2 that I have, it's like to screen things that are appropriate, or to try and like filter through the stuff that's obvious, like propaganda and programming, and there's so much of it. I recently, this is no plug, I just bought the Tuttle Twins series for my kids to get into, just so there's something positive that I know is like, I don't have to like sit over their shoulder while they're doing it. But it's tough, man. It's really tough.
Have you met him yet, Tuttle, the Tuttle Twins guy?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you're going to Freedom Fest, right? He should be at Freedom Fest, because he was at Ron Paul's barbecue, and I think he was at the other Freedom Fest. I think I met him probably 2 or 3 times now. So I think this time around it'll be fun.
So Teddy, so if you stumbled on your roommate's TV, what was like the first show that you watched, or what was the first one that you saw, and then what was the first thing that actually like captivated you to sit and watch?
Yeah, so when I was in college, the show How I Met Your Mother had just come out. It was like the pilot season, and of course, for a lot of people, they don't realize, old people like us remember that, you were dedicated to the show, right? You and all of America sat down in front of the TV and watched the show. Of course, things aren't like that anymore. But
you were
How I
literally
Met Your
programmed.
Mother. Oh, do what?
You were literally programmed to watch it. Like
Yeah,
you were like like literally you had to set your schedule to it, or else you'd miss it.
yeah. And so when I saw that, and really, in all fairness, How I Met Your Mother is like Friends 2.0. It's just recooked. But this idea, and of course, I wasn't averse to it. Like I said, I was not practicing any kind of faith tradition or anything at the time, and so I was very secular. It didn't scandalize me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I very much saw this idea of selling you on the idea of open relationships, and like, commitment doesn't really matter. And this group of friends basically sleeps around with everybody like Friends did. It's the same, but it's basically selling the idea of secular liberalism as the height of human flourishing and freedom. And of course, as anyone knows who tries to live the quote unquote Hollywood TV show character lifestyle, you're not going to achieve the level of quote unquote happiness that ultimately you're being sold in the end. But just that really secular liberalism, don't believe in God, let your conscience be your guide, right? Don't let morals hold you back and shame you. Do whatever you will, right? Which ironically enough is the only command of the Church of Satan. Do whatever you please.
Well, okay. I didn't know you were
Joey
going to go there
peed on a leg, so I don't
haven't
know.
studied the text from the Church of Satan, but I'll take your word for it. I'm not
I
gonna.
actually did. There's actually a really good documentary called "Hail Satan."
Of course you did.
My buddy and I did a deep dive into it, because we're anti-theists, remember? So
Well, I will say I got a buddy on X, Native Patriot, who posted something yesterday about the new season of Stranger Things, and it's kind of ties into what you said. Like I watched, I think the first season when it first came out. It seems like it was like 10 years ago. Those kids are still doing the same stuff over and over, apparently. But he was posting about how like the whole storyline was, and I hate the W word, but the whole storyline was like obviously skewed to like feminist power, and it was pretty blatantly like, he goes, I couldn't watch it without rolling my eyes. And he posted some clip that he got a lot of people talking to him like, don't take it so serious, it's just entertainment. And it's like, but people don't realize, like, if you just write it off as just entertainment, the amount of time that you spend watching and taking that stuff in, like it definitely has a toll, or definitely accumulates in some way, in your psyche of that programming.
May I touch on that? Crying Game. Does everybody remember the scene in
Oh,
the
yeah.
Crying Game? The
Absolutely.
shame or
Yeah.
whatever, whatever the look, be whoever you are. That's not what I'm saying. But do you remember culturally the shame? That guy in the shower, like trying to wash it off, right? Like that ultimate shame of that. And now we got into women getting beat up by men in sports. Like that's how much that Overton window shifted in just that one culture issue, right?
Absolutely. Well, okay. So where'd you go to college, Teddy? Did you say that? I missed it.
Went to Holy Apostles College.
Oh, okay. Where's that?
It's in Connecticut.
So when did you were you raised like in faith and then did your own thing kind of thing and then went back to it, or how'd you find that?
Yeah, well, the term is a cradle Catholic,
Okay.
and the joke is we were sacramentalized, we weren't catechized. So we checked the boxes and got the sacraments, but I can remember very few times where we actually went to mass or went to church. And it wasn't until my mid-20s that I really was, I was at a loss. I say I failed out of the secular lifestyle, and I didn't have what it took, and looked everywhere and thought, well, I'll go back to the faith that I it's even not even fair to say that I was raised in, but I had a real encounter with God, and then it wasn't until much later that I went to college and finished my degree and went and studied philosophy, and things really, really clicked into place from there.
Do you find
Yeah.
a through line in philosophy? Like, do you see it almost like touching on all the different things of religion and different denominations or whatever, where it's like it pulls kind of universal things from all of those and kind of ties them together? That's how I view philosophy, but I'm a moron, so I'm just curious how you view it.
Yeah, well, philosophy, broadly speaking, is the study of human thought. So, that's pretty broad, pretty broad brush there that you can paint
I
with.
wouldn't go that far. Human thought isn't so broad, my friend. Have you watched Twitter? Have you been on have you been on social media? It's not really broad, my friend.
Yeah, but I would say more than anything, and my background is in Western philosophy specifically. So going back to Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and then building the bridge forward there. And really what I see is ideologies, no matter what they are, they're dime a dozen. You can go find whatever ideology to believe whatever you want to believe. But to me, when you're really looking at philosophy is getting past the initial argument. It's understanding the premises that they're operating from. And, to me, I think the most valuable part is, and I joke a little bit about this in the book, I say that modern philosophy or modern concepts of philosophy is to kind of just marvel at all of it and go, sound like you're around the bong circle, being like, man, that's deep, bro. You do you, it's my truth, your truth. And it's just, it's not really what philosophy was designed to do, which is what Socrates did, right? He asked the question, his ultimate question was, what does it mean to be a good person? And to continue to ask questions or drill down, if you will, and get down to the very first premises of what it means to be a person, what is our role in the universe, and what responsibilities do we have to each other, and those really, really fundamental basic questions. And to me, I think that describes the political polarity that we're feeling in the world today. It's the reason that we feel like we're living in such a schizophrenic age. We have this very grounded Christian, if not a very philosophically founding that we come from. It's very regimented. The Declaration's very clear that our rights come from the Creator. And now we have Senator Tim Kaine from Virginia waxing poetically on the Senate floor about where rights come from, and it's dangerous to think that our rights come from God. And so we live in this.
Sounds like hate speech. I'm sorry, I have to interject here. That sounds like hate speech. I'm sorry, Teddy.
Can you admit that guy was like close to being the vice president? That's insane.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Tim Walz was close to being the vice president. Kamala was the vice
scarier.
president. What do you want, man? Gerald Ford was unelected. Not a single vote cast for that mother guy, and he became president, my friend. Not a single vote cast for him, and we bitched about Kamala getting in without a vote, right? Like getting her side. Okay, sure.
No, true, but
we haven't been had
hear like
bull pulled over eyes for like decades, man.
An almost vice president say that the rights don't come from a creator or from guys. Like, did you not read the manual when you showed up? Like, where do you come up with this stuff? So, okay, so the questions that you ask and answer in philosophy, and pardon me here as I try and put this together like a layperson, but it seems like the questions about, the interaction with the universe and all these things are simple answers, and they should be like simple, like well-defined answers, but they also seem like they almost have to keep being redefined because most of what we deal with every day is like a distraction, and it's way more noise than it is signal. I mean, am I close at all?
Yeah, and I will say too, there have been many very good, strong, cohesive societies from history, and a lot of good examples of good, strong, convicted societies that weren't Christian, and didn't come from a Christian framework like our founders came from. But I will say you touch on a really good point there, which is that's a part of this tearing apart, this feeling like we're ripping apart at the fabric, is because we're coming at these things from such radically different viewpoints. I don't think there's been a historical example where you can get to this point where it's like literally the country's divided in half on such a strong ideological divide between what is morphing into progressivism now, but really modern liberalism from the 1960s forward, this very you do you, live your truth, that functioned pretty well in a tight, cohesive society. But as the moral frameworks that built this country continue to become eroded, that's really where we're at. And why it feels like it feels like a breaking point, because one of those ideologies is going to prevail in the end. But very much at least since the 1960s, that cultural redefinition has been slowly taking place and supplanting what was here before. And so we'll see. We'll see what the future holds. But I certainly don't want whatever this progressivism is, whatever Zoran Mamdani is. I don't want that to that to take over the country.
Well, Zoran Mamdani is the effect. It's blowback, just like Trump was the effect in 2016.
Yeah, no, I can agree
with
both of you. I can agree with both of you on that. So I do feel like the country's divided, but I honestly also feel like the division is just amplified through social media. And I think that anytime I talk to people that, I'm not a Christian, I'm not an atheist, I'm pretty agnostic on organized religion. I'm all into the alien stuff. That's another topic. But for me, it's like the more people I just talk to and have conversations with, I find so many more things in common, unless people are just being deferential and they just want to get through the day without having conflict. But even when I have conflict or disagreements with people, when it's in person, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Teddy, like definitely there's division, but when I talk to people in person, it seems so much more solvable, I guess, or it seems so much more easy to kind of categorize. Okay, well, this person has this thing that we don't agree with, but we can find these things we do agree with, and that kind of gives us common ground to respectfully and in good faith talk about the things we don't agree with. But obviously social media is not going away anytime soon, and I don't want to be the get off my lawn guy, but the internet did ruin humanity completely. I'm just curious, how do we have more of those conversations with people in person and less of you jump on Twitter, and that's the only account that I have, X, so I don't have other social, but people are so harsh and so quick to be like, to slit your proverbial throat on there. And it's like, whoa. And I'm sure most of them are probably bots, but like, how do we get to a place where we can have just more civil, like borrow a cup of sugar from your neighbors kind of conversation?
Yeah, I would definitely like to see that. And to echo your sentiments as well, I experience that when you have a legitimate conversation with somebody, but people want things to be affordable. And one of the common things that I find more than anything, and if you get somebody talking about their kids and the future and leaving a better world for their kids than they have, like that seems to be something that, at least for now, it's still resonating in the collective mind of the American people. But it's a really difficult thing because I truly believe that there is a group. I wrote a book about it, right? So I didn't write it to be Alex Jones 2.0. I mean, I wrote from conviction and what I believe is true about the world. And this group of people are very adept and understand what it takes to control people. And it takes the courage of their convictions, and I think their convictions are quite evil, but they know what to do to ramp things up. I don't think that it's by mistake that the algorithm is obviously written by people and it's controlled by corporations, and all of those corporations all work in the same direction and spend billions of dollars on psychological research to find ways to make the things more addicting and to increase your screen time and to increase your anxiety and all of that stuff. And oh, by the way, no tech billionaire allows their kid anywhere near a screen. They don't let their own family use it. And so, we're dealing with a lot of people who are becoming very wealthy to do the bidding of a much smaller group of people. But I really hate to say, like, the way that we achieve a level of peace or a level of being able to talk in good faith to each other, because that's really what's been lost, right? I have to be a partisan, or I have to think this, or I have to come to this conclusion. And if you're on the other side of the fence, then we can't have a conversation in goodwill. But really, I hate to say, oh, we have to wake people up or wake more people up, but just, where we started the show, understanding that we are living inside a narrative. And it's not just the slow, inevitable march of time, which may have been true 100 years ago, but it's not in the age of technology and cable programming and all of those types of things. To me, I find more common ground and more ability to have more real conversations, the more people will admit that the media is fake. Admit that social media is a cesspool. If the more you can pull someone out of the fake reality of technology and into the real reality of shared relationship and common cause, that I think that's the way forward. But I mean, it's just the way the world functions. It's hard to unplug.
Well, it doesn't. I think you're right. It doesn't seem like it's for a lack of information, though. That's the thing. Is like the information's out there, and it's just everyone is so dug in on like selectively choosing what information they want to believe, and between all the different designations between misinformation and malinformation, it's so easy to kind of have people think that they're informed, and then they dig in even harder on some of those discussions, I think, because of it.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, there's several studies from the CIA that pointed out that when making a case study of the internet, they knew they weren't going to be able to silence the internet or control the internet. And so the tactic is basically signal confusion. Throw so many things out there that you don't know what's real and what's fake and what's a false flag and real. And so I think there's so much of that, and nowhere is that more prevalent than in the conspiracy theory world. There are literally an endless number of rabbit holes you can dive down, and if you don't have any ability to discern fact from fiction, if you're not operating from an ideological premise, it's really, really difficult. And in fact, most of those are set up to make you feel like you're smarter than everybody else and you know what you're talking about when you've bought the psyop.
While taking
but once again, I'm sorry, I have to interject again. Once again, just like your hate speech earlier, Tyler James Robinson only shot Charlie Kirk in the softest part of the body with a 30-06, and his neck is made of fucking what is that shit? Kryptonite or whatever the hell. I don't know. Superman, whatever. Okay.
Heart
So
King's Heart of
please,
Steel.
please spare us these lies that you guys keep talking about. Okay. Because Tyler James Robinson did it all alone and hates me, all this stuff.
Well-
I'm starting to get very infuriated.
At least you're using his middle name, because all assassins have to use, you have to use all three names for assassins. So good on that. So
Don't
Teddy,
worry.
going back from college, getting kind of back to, like you said, the cradle religion, or however you worded that. But where from there do you then get passionate enough about Davos to dive in and really want to write a book about it? Because that's the part that I'm always definitely one to encourage people just to follow whatever they're passionate about. And it's really interesting to see what different things kind of spark people. So I'm really curious about your journey from college to philosophy to then deciding, like, okay, this is a topic that I really want to tackle.
Well, yeah, like I said, it was pulling on a string and not knowing where I was going to end up. So that was I think life is like that in a lot of ways. But like I said, it started in the cultural sphere, and then really seeing ideological things start to ramp up. I was a pretty asleep political guy, marched in lockstep to vote for the team that my parents voted for, right? Go to the ballot box and vote for who your parents voted for. But when Barack Obama was elected in 2012, I think he said something that escaped most people's notice in his inaugural address, which was that he was going to fundamentally transform America, and that to me, pricked my ears up. I was like, wait, whoa. Like, let's form a more perfect union. I'm all for let's form a more perfect union, but fundamental transformation, that's something a little different. But more than that, I saw a couple of things that really started to make me notice, and that is foreign policy and the foreign policy apparatus that's ruled over America, of global foreign policy since the end of World War II, changed exactly zero in the 16 years between Bush and Obama. And if you go down that rabbit hole enough, they're second cousins, by the way.
It changed. It actually
Yeah.
increased. It changed.
Yeah.
It ramped up. So
That's
a
it,
fun
I'm
one.
sorry, once again, I have to argue with you again. I'm sorry to keep arguing with our special guest here, but it did change. I mean,
well, I think
you're
it was
lying again.
the targeted drone strike. That was Obama's favorite. So maybe,
And the American
Bush didn't
citizen he
have
killed.
that.
The
Do what?
16-year-old American citizen he killed was a good one. That was a whipped cream on top, or the cherry on top.
Right. So really recognizing that in the foreign policy sphere, and then once you look at the Federal Reserve and you understand what it is, there's really no going back from that. And then really, ultimately what broke me was I grew up Republican, right? So I was on Team Red, and I was always mad that the media was being so mean to Bush, and I was so mad that they wouldn't hold Obama accountable, right? And then I could easily flip over and be mad that they were doing like way worse to Trump. But to me, no matter what happened, no matter what was said, the mainstream media from every single network all had the exact same opinions. And oh, by the way, that was the exact same opinions of the climate activists. Those are the exact same people in the Fortune 500 company about DEI and racial quotas and all of these things. And when you finally start like backing the lens out and really seeing that it's not only American politics and economics and the cultural sphere, but it's all Western nations are all just slowly marching in ideological lockstep with globalism and this idea that we're going to live in a one world order, and we've all got to come together as humanity, and we all know exactly what kind of energy we're going to use, and we all agree on all of these things, and there's not anybody who goes against the narrative. And nowhere better is that displayed in Hollywood, right? If you tweet the truth, you're not going to get that part. You're not going to get the big time role. And that's true for everybody. And so as kind of the as the liberal world order, I think, got very, very confident under Obama. And you can remember, it's going to be Hillary's turn. I truly believe that the DC apparatus, that's the regulatory state and the intelligence agencies that actually run our government, I strongly believe that in 2015, they thought there would never be another Republican president again. And we would just move into the uniparty that they wanted, but they're beholden to this globalist endeavor. And just seeing that whole level of ideological lockstep is, like I said, it's one of those things you can't unsee. And so really starting to pull the layers back and saying, Occam's razor is a philosophical concept, right? And Occam's razor says, if you have two explanations for the same cause and effect, and give me an explanation, and one explanation is 100 different points and it's all elaborate and involves all these people, and this one is just travels straight from point A to point B. It's the simplest explanation. You should give credence to the simpler explanation. Occam's razor would say, how do all of Western nations come to the exact same conclusions about every political point that matters, and everyone else is shunned out of the narrative who dares to disagree? Well, it'd be that a really small group of people actually controls that narrative. And so
Look,
when you
please, once again, sir, please, you leave Mr. Macron and his husband alone. Okay, we don't need more European bashing here, sir. We don't need any of this. This sounds very divisive. This is starting to sound very, very I don't know. I'm starting to feel very anxious about this conversation.
It is amazing though how those narratives all roll out like perfect lockstep, perfectly, repeated by news media, social media posts, bots, whatever you want to call it, all the way down to, stuff spreads so fast. We have 1 million of the Richard Gere gerbil stories before, the end of every day. It just happens all the time.
Yeah. We have video now.
I had to throw that out there. Sorry.
We all have cameras.
So I'm with you on the Fed. I'm one of the most, I say it till I'm blue in the face. I'm reading the Creature from Jekyll Island right now. It's a manifesto, but I'm reading it.
The book to get.
But with all the misinformation and malinformation, or whatever you want to call it, like, what is the easiest way to get through to people to show people that are, because, okay, for me, it was COVID. That was my big, and like a lot of people, that was my black pill, was COVID. I was going along, not really paying attention to government. Everything was going pretty fine for me. Like I had a good life. COVID hit, and it's really, to your point, like when I started noticing all of the narratives in lockstep, that's when it was for me. And it seemed to just be like they just stopped trying to hide it at that point. And now it's just openly like, no, this is the narrative. If you're not on this team, you're a racist, you're a this, you're a that, whatever. How do we get through to the people who were like I was, that aren't paying attention, to realize, like, to get enough people so that the tide or the pendulum starts to shift till we get some momentum in this this movement to dethrone Davos and to get rid of the Fed and to do all these things? Like, what steps do you see that we can actually do in our day-to-day life?
Yeah, well, but we have to do it, right? And that's turning that tide and turning that momentum is so important. And I'm a philosophy nerd, so that I philosophy, and I wanted to write this book because I wanted to say, hey, this is actually a really complicated system. But really, if you take the philosophical concepts that these people are operating from, and learn and understand the kind of the psychological war being waged on you, and kind of internalize these basic philosophical concepts and ability to recognize truth in the world, and do that, then you can start deprogramming yourself, or you can at least let things fly over, or you can see an article or hear an opinion and understand where they're coming from. To me, I think that's really, really important. It's one of the reasons I wrote the book. but I do understand that philosophy, like I said, I'm a philosophy nerd. I love the weeds. I love getting down in the weeds, and you can get in the weeds really, really quick. But I really just tried to focus on, uh, the fundamental concepts of realism and reorienting, kind of reorienting our mind. And it's I almost feel like it's amnesia. We have our founding principles, have our concepts, and that runs deep in our roots, whether we were paying attention in government class or not. And so really reconnecting with those basic concepts against the psychological warfare that's throwing the opposite worldview in our face. And it's creating just signal chaos and confusion. That's a part and the first step in untangling the web. And so, I mean, I know you guys are doing that. You're wanting to get to the truth. But for anybody, COVID woke them up. A lot of different places along the way have woken all of us up and gotten us to the point where we are. But being able to articulate that to people in a clear way, and in a way that is not me imposing my religion, right? I explicitly wrote this book as an American philosophical book, and not as a pounding you with the Bible, pounding scripture to you through the pages of my book. I really wanted to focus on the things that all of the founders agreed on. They all agreed on Aristotle, no matter what faith tradition they came from. I think if we can reclaim the concepts of realism and reject this cultural relativism that has been thrown on us, and it's very enticing, and a lot of times it's really fun while it's going on, but it's not going to lead you to true human happiness and flourishing, which is indicative of the culture and the number of depressed and people and drug addicts that we have roaming the streets. But if we can reclaim that concept of realism that the founders very much believed in, I think all of a sudden a great American rebirth becomes, very, very clear and obvious in a lot of people's minds. And turning that tide's important, because you have to pull the people along with you.
Well, no, I definitely agree with you there. It almost feels like Sisyphus with the rock, with this, just trying to recapture these things. It's like, feels like there's some progress made, and then we get trampled again. But so I got to know, have you gotten any death threats from Klaus Schwab yet?
Fortunately, not to date. Klaus is out at the World Economic Forum.
No,
anyway,
I know,
so.
I know.
You will own nothing and you will be happy.
So back to the Fed, back to getting through this kind of global, this march toward, this globalist agenda, whatever you want to call it, for lack of a better word. I personally feel like we're like a speeding train blowing right through the end of the track here, with the way that our dollar has been completely diminished. The way the debt's gone up $2.2 trillion, I think, just since Trump's been president so far. It's almost like it's fake numbers, which I guess it kind of is. But to me, and please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, or tell me something I don't know, but it seems like we are headed towards a default on all this interest that we owe. And it seems like that's maybe going to be the catalyst that starts this kind of reset. Because if, like I said before in our show with Brent, like if we default, then so many other countries, it's just gonna be a chain reaction around the world. And then what does it mean? Like, I've seen the meme that says, the whole world is 400 and something trillion in debt. It's like, to who? So what do you think? I mean, what do you think is going to be the catalyst? Am I missing a key piece here, or do you agree with me that that's going to be the next, or at least the thing that starts it?
Yeah, the debt is, I always like to say, it's not a threat, it's a promise. We can't continue down this road forever. And it's frustrating to see. To me, I think the debt is an obvious catalyst to putting countries in default. And then, of course, when you go into default, you have in these cases, right? If you're an individual, you just declare bankruptcy, but countries have to go into default, and they have to get on default plans. And so, to me, I think that the level of debt and the amount of spending results in a collapse of the financial system, of which the central bankers uphold it and will promise to artificially keep the value of the dollars and different currencies inflated, just so long as we go to a central bank digital currency. So I think that's really more of the long game on the debt.
I agree with
Ultimately,
you. I think that's what's going to happen with East Germany. When East Germany and West Germany unified, I think they gave 3 West German Deutschmark for every, or 1 German Deutschmark for each West, 3 Eastern German Deutschmarks or something. I think that's how they're going to default. They're going to do some kind of buyback in a CBDC, and that's going to be backed by something that they're going to claim is the foundational structure to hold it all together.
right. And I think, though, it's not my timeline. It's not the crazy conspiracy theorist timeline. They said by 2030, I'm sure you guys have seen that really highly produced promotional video from the World Economic Forum. I believe it came out in 2017 or 18, where made multiple predictions. But one of those is by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy. But the other one is America will no longer be the world's leading superpower. And so it's kind of for lack of clarity from the World Economic Forum, a lot of people are saying Agenda 2030 or the Great Reset 2030. I think that we're up for the greatest psyop that the world has ever seen, and that's really the ultimate play. And when we talk about world domination, it's easy to get real Bond villainy and kind of fantastical or over the top Hollywood, but really what they've formed is an economic technocracy, right? They've formed where they own the Fed, these central bankers, they own the Fed, they control so much currency, they control the EU. And what they want to do is keep all the names of the countries the same, and they want to boil us to death slowly, just like the frog in the water, and get us to a point where, our freedom and sovereignty is severely diminished. But it happened in such a way that we felt like it was a matter of necessity or coming together as the world to solve a problem. And what that'll ultimately do, the trap closing really, is a mandatory United Nations that's solving some global problem. And then what I call this group the Thrones of Davos will be the rule by expert class, right? They'll be the science or the religion or the technology. They will be the truth, the ministry of truth, if you will, over this mandatory United Nations. And by edict of the science, they will tell all the countries how to operate. And ultimately that's a way easier thing, is to operate in the background as an invisible economic technocracy and use just sheer power to push people around. And they're already able to do that in so many ways. But I think what we're looking at in the Great Reset and leading up to 2030 is what I say, they go from owning most of everything to everything.
Yeah. Mark, you want to?
Yeah, you buried the lead, man. I don't know if you're going to share it. You had an experience with God. Hello? We should have stopped right there and asked what the hell. I would love to, if you're open to sharing, I would love to hear that, because I think everyone has a direct thing. So I'd love to hear what your direct relationship or how that came about.
I'd love to say, I was riding along on my horse and I was persecuting Christians, and a light came and knocked me off, and it wasn't
That's what happened to me.
Right.
That's my
happened to
story.
everyone but you, Teddy. Come on, man. Get with
it. To me, like I said, I'm a philosophy nerd. Everything's very rational to me, very, very keen. I'm very keen on saying it has to make logical sense, right? And so in kind of dipping my toe in the water and returning to faith, probably had a lot of the same kind of reservations as Jefferson. Jefferson famously wrote all the miracles out of the Bible. He called it the Jefferson Bible. It was kind of a naturalist explanation, but it was very important to me for things to be reasonable and to be rational. And so I was having a really hard time with the concept of God in general, and I always did. I struggled with that. The real revelatory part to me was just struggling. And a of course I was going to figure it out myself, right? I'm not going to, I'm not going to ask God to help me. I don't even know if I believe him or not. But the very boring answer is, I came to the realization that believing in God is a misnomer. And that is to say, I studied Aristotle and began to read Aquinas and his proofs for God's existence. And to acknowledge the fact that there is an unmoved mover, as Aristotle would say, right? A first cause of the universe. That's an exercise of reason, and that's something that is so shrouded in confusion in our modern world that, belief in God, right? Do you believe in God? That really translates to, I believe that God can be defined in this way, or in this faith tradition, or that this faith tradition in its description of God is true. But ultimately, we all rest upon some fundamental premise that wasn't moved into existence, that moved everything into existence. And that was just something that, like, I just totally let go. I was able to be like, oh, okay, quote unquote, believing in God is not a superstition, right? I'm not having to like jump out on some leap of faith that I can't quantify or prove. And so I'm not going to say like peace came over me, right? But it was just like this sense of clarity. And I was like, okay, that's really good. And I got to that point and I was like, okay, God of the universe, right? The unmoved mover. You may be a giant alien or spaghetti monster in the sky. If you're a personal God, come and talk to me and speak to me. And he did. He spoke to me directly. And it was it was an Earth to Teddy moment. I heard very, very clearly in my mind, just like, good job. I'm here. I don't know what took you so long, but from there, I was very aware of God's presence, and not only the fact that he's the sky fairy, right? He's the sky daddy up in the clouds, but that he does have a personal connection to us. And actually it's through our reason and the fact that we can see order in this world and see that the world is ordered, is in some way a reflection of his logic, his logos and his word.
Oh, wait, hold on, Dinesh D'Souza. All right, time out. Hold on. Are you intelligent designing us out of here all of a sudden? Is that what you're going to do here? Is that what you're trying to do? Should we go to the giraffe's esophagus, sir? Should we go to the giraffe's esophagus? Shall I? No, I'm just kidding, man. If I may, I have one quick question about the reason, because I think it's a thing that all of us with reason have an issue with, is what created the creator? What's really the first turtle? It's the same question that anyone from the Big Bang, anything, is what made the thing that made the thing that made the thing, right? So I'm curious how you wrestle that with your reason, if I may. I don't want to get you off track, but I find that very interesting. I don't find it contradictory, but I find it interesting right now. So I'm curious how you work that. Right.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. It actually is turtles all the way down. So that's the answer. No, I'm kidding. If the concept,
hopefully it's not Franklin. Hopefully it's not Franklin Turtle, because Franklin's getting some heat lately.
Yeah, I know. But even in a duality, one of the oldest heresies out there is called Gnostic dualism, and it's this idea of the yin and the yang, and there's a good and an evil, and they're in battle with each other, right? But in that concept, if there were two equal concepts of good and evil, there would have to be a superstructure above that would need to explain the existence of these two equally yoked together forces. And you can think of many examples, like the train car, right? That it can't be an infinitely long train, but to me, it's the joined arguments of, we know we live in a finite world. There's no such thing as the present in an infinite world, and so there is obviously a timeline, because here we are in the present talking about it. And then that ultimate concept of there can't be there can't be a scenario of something unexplained that just exists here. There has to be an explanation. And if you get to 2 or 3 explanations, there's got to be ultimately, fundamentally, there has to be an unmoved mover, right? That's Aristotle's term of what he posited. But it's a singular force, and it very clearly is operating above and over this universe that we live in, that's in time and space and in 3 dimensions. And whatever that is, it's outside of this 3-dimensional space, but it has to be a singular force.
The outside argument is the one that many people speak of just being outside of things so it can be. So yeah,
Or
cool.
it's a
I appreciate your
simulation.
time. Like I said, I appreciate you explaining that from your perspective. Yeah, thanks.
Or it's a simulation.
Oh, it's all simulated,
Totally.
dude. Trust
It is.
me.
It's God's
What I've
simulation.
experienced is you don't even know the half of it, my friend. You have no idea. Get hit in the head a couple times, you'll figure it out real quick. Trust me. The
Okay,
stuff I
so
see.
from this book and being so profoundly struck with the passion to really follow this, like you said, you pulled that thread, and it kind of led you to this place. What's the next passion for you? What's the next train car, to continue your analogy of like, what's the link now for you? What's the next topic? Are you going to write another book? Is this a one and done? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, well, I am working on a new book. I'm and really just trying to see, you know, Jake, you and I have talked about this. I've said for a long time, it's we the people versus the establishment, and it's really, and what I mean by that is the apparatus in DC, the regulatory state and the intelligence agencies, right? The intelligence agencies run our foreign policy. Regulatory state runs our domestic policy. Congress is kabuki theater at this point. And it's that apparatus that's tied back to the globalist endeavor. They're in the pockets of the globalists, but they've amassed this huge power, and they're not going to give it up easily. And I'm seeing in Trump 2.0, the first 100 days were very hopeful, I guess, but we're really seeing him pivot from saying, like, I'm against the establishment, we want to burn it down, to, well, maybe we can try to reform it. Maybe we should nibble around the edges and see if we can spend our way out of this, like that's worked over the last 40 years. But what I'm seeing is a real breakdown on the political right, and where everybody's focused on the left. They're like, the left is dead, wokeism is dead, they're rudderless, they're leaderless. And
no, they're
to me,
just waiting.
They're not going to put a target on any Democrat politician's head at this point, and they're not losing members. They're consolidating, right?
Yeah.
They're consolidating forces and power, and they're sending all of their dead weight, the people who they don't have control over anymore, into the opposition's camp, at least in their opinion. And what we're seeing is a lot of the MAGA folks, a lot of the Maha folks, and really a lot of the America First folks going like, hey, this is not what I signed up for. Like, I wanted to see you demolish some of those regulatory buildings in DC, and not reform, but destroy the system. And so I think that's the future divide on the political right, at least, and probably the trajectory forward for if we want to save our country.
So that's what you're working on now, writing something along those lines?
Yeah, and in particular about the rise of the quote unquote alt-right. I believe that is a really large psyop to create a civil war in the country and frame it as American Nazis versus progressive commies, and just create ultimate chaos, kind of as a last stand battle as we come into what may be the last presidential election of our country.
Oh God, I hope not. But then again, there, like you said, it is kabuki theater. But I got one thing, and then Mark, I know you got a couple things you were itching to get to, but you're not wrong. Like the first 100 days was like, oh, okay, wow, okay, maybe something's gonna happen. He seems to be like, after getting shot in the ear, he's coming back stronger than ever. Like there's all this momentum. They kept using the word mandate. And at first, JD Vance seemed like, okay, this might be, but then you realize like just the Peter Thiel with the strings and Back to your point about the technocracy and Palantir and all these things that are coming in, but it's like, so you're seeing Trump kind of hoping that he's going to continue this momentum. And then you're right. Like the truly America first people, are sitting around like, wait, what happened? Like, how'd you move the ball? And it's like Lucy in the football again, where like those of us who thought, okay, maybe there's going to be this change towards what we really want, we got duped again. And it's like we went from, we're going to get rid of income tax, and we free Ross Ulbricht, and now he ran Marjorie Taylor Greene out of Congress, and she was she's not perfect, but and she's part of the Kabuki theater, but she's like one of the true America first people that were in there. And it's like, now he ran her out and completely, disowned her. It's like, it just seems like he's surrounded by the worst people. And I don't even mean to take the onus off of him. Like, it's definitely, he's in charge of this, who he keeps around him. So it's not like, oh, he just got tricked, but he just keeps picking the worst, the Randy Fines and the worst people to be around him. And it's like, it's highly disappointing, I guess. Like I said, we go from ending wars to now we're going to be putting boots on the ground in Venezuela, like anytime now. And I don't get how, I'm like, you have whiplash from it almost, from how quickly it's changed.
Yeah. Well, hopefully those Tesla bots are coming online pretty soon. We can just send them.
Jeez. Yeah. Well, they'll have Palantir, logos and the shoulder fired missiles. And, yeah, that's scary in and of itself. And the way that it's ramping up, I mean, 2030, if we're lucky, it's like next summer probably. But, anyway, Mark, I see you chomping.
I'm chomping just because I've got a sucker, because my throat's a little sore. Had a long day yelling at a dog. But this Kabuki theater, you guys sound like racists all of a sudden. Kabuki, I don't understand this thing you guys talk about. Man, you guys are having a bad day today. No, but you guys know the whole kayfabe thing, right? The whole wrestling thing. But I guess the question, I don't know if the question is right, but I think this is what I always think. Obviously, we think two wings, same bird. It's funny how we go back and we go, under the Democrats, they want to increase the law and order. So they do, under Clinton, have that drug bill and the anti-gun bill, or the assault weapon. Okay, a little bit. But we needed a 9/11 type thing, right? And we also need a Republican to say, no, we don't believe in surveillance. We don't believe in control, but we have to for this thing, right? And then it took a collapse of a bank, and it took a Democrat like Obama to say, we hate bailing out the corporations. That's why, because we think this one's important, this one's important. And now we're doing this exact same flip-flop thing with this increased FISA and the federal ICE force, literal 100 billion through 2028. Just your general thoughts on how they manipulate us to get the other side to actually implement, or our side to implement, the thing that we would normally be counter to, because they can justify it somehow.
Yeah. Well, and, we talked about that a couple of times already, just we were all for no forever wars, right? We didn't want any wars, no wars. But, Trump's making a war in Venezuela. So, I mean, I guess we got to get on board, and defend it. That's such a good point and such good framing. And that really, if you get into the psychology of the people who are making these decisions, and, I go into this at great length in the book about relativism. Relativism is a complete denial of truth. Which ultimately means that you think that you're the master of the universe, and that your perspective, your opinions projected out into the world become reality itself, right? Like you have to be a clinical narcissist to step into those shoes, right?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah. But these are the type of people that we're dealing with. And these are the people who feel like they have a sovereign godship over humanity, and to rule us in this way, and to be so unscrupulous about manipulating And you can bet that the American media aren't the only people manipulating our perceptions of our political parties, doing exactly what you said. But that's true. Nothing is off the table. There's not a moral framework that's stopping them from doing whatever is necessary to slowly spin this web, to create political division when it's expedient, to create a sense of unity when it's convenient, whatever it takes, whatever for the glorious revolution to come to its glorious end.
I have one other one. It's more of a hypothetical sandbox kind of scenario thing.
Here we go.
Imagine the AI. If AI was the advancement that it currently is, maybe a little bit more before COVID happened, and they were able to generate just like people just puking in the streets or just some kind of just craziness. What are your thoughts on how kind of lucky we were that we missed, that it wasn't caught up yet to that point because of those things?
Oh yeah.
And like boomer generation versus Gen X versus millennial versus Gen Z versus alpha, how people like my mom watches a video. I mean, my mom will go, this is my mom. He saw 40 beheaded babies. And I'm like, no, Mom, he told you he saw 40 beheaded babies. He told you he saw 40. Take just one step away. Now with video, with the boomers, 80-year-olds with cataracts. I mean, come on, what's going to happen?
Yeah, it's the Wild West with AI, and again, spot on. Like you can't imagine if video was good enough and could be, just edited and spliced together enough to create the amount of scare, that they did a pretty good job scaring the world with the flu or with a bad cold, but with AI, I think that
except in Oklahoma. Remember they had the winter jackets? They were in line in August.
Yeah.
That's the only one I keep thinking of. Is like AI would have been like, you stupid humans, why did you do this? You are so stupid. You can't even propagandize correctly.
They didn't even have AI, and they made people think we landed on the moon. So
they couldn't even pick the right pictures with humans. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we're in for a wild ride with the midterms and with the presidential election in 2028. I think that AI is growing so fast. It's really scary how fast it's growing and how good it's getting, and that's going to be something that we have to navigate as well. But in AI in particular, I think that I think we probably will see a point where it's interesting that all of the people that are working on AI, when they're interviewed, they all feel like it's the end of civilization. It's the end of humanity as we know it. But it's like kind of pulling at the string. They can't help themselves to but do it. But to me, I think that ties into why ultimately into this like fantasy, this relativism fantasy that the people, Klaus Schwab, Yuval Harari, the Davos crowd are all transhumanists. Like this real idea that they're going to they view the body as the greatest limitation of humanity. And if they could upload their brains to the cloud, they could reign for 1,000 years. And to me, like, I think they're going to move forward with their plans either way. Right. But I think the fever dream in these people's minds is like using the AI as kind of an overlord god, do master planning, but then ultimately get to a place technologically where they are like, pretend to be gods themselves, but they're like virtual gods who never get unseated from their thrones. They're kind of living in the ether, and they feel like if they can do that, they'll reign forever. And so it's just, that's weird dystopian stuff. But I think that, like I said, I think that's more of like the fever dream, what if kind of scenario. But it fits perfectly with their crazy ideology.
And that's the weird, I guess, double edge about AI is like some of it's amazing. Like some of it is super helpful. Like I used it today. I bought a car in September. I've had to take it into the shop 3 times since then. It's got 2,500 miles on it. I said, hey, help me write a letter to try and get out of my lease, and it cites all the Washington state laws and lemon law. I mean, it was amazing. But then on the flip side, it'll just make things up if it doesn't know. And I think that, to your point, like moving toward this technocracy of these of the elites or whatever you want to call it, trying to kind of rule, they're going to sell it to us on the comfort and the look. Supposedly no one's going to have to work anymore, and everything's just going to come so easy. But then on the flip side, it's like, here's your comfort switch, coax you into your prison, so to speak. And that's the part that I think enough people need to really kind of pay attention to avoid. There was a show that was on Netflix along 8 years ago called Altered Carbon. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I did. I did not watch it.
We should do a podcast about it. Jake.
It was kind of like this. It was a show where sometime in the future, if your body died, or you could choose to download your consciousness and put it into another body. And so you had people, switching genders and ages and all these different things, but their same consciousness kept going on. And I think, granted, it's like a sci-fi thriller that had one season, so it wasn't that well written, but that type of idea, if that technology becomes available, is something that'll be, hey, wouldn't you want to try life like this for a while, or try life like this? And you don't have to work. Everything's taken care of for you. Try this. And in the meantime, it's like, you're in the Matrix in the little tank with the stuff hooked up to you, just powering that machine.
What was the thing? Now, once again, Teddy, I hate to contradict, sir. You're sounding like a useless eater. Okay, the way you speak, you're sounding like a useless eater, and I don't think we can have useless eaters on our show. I don't know if that's possible. But here's the other thing. I think they're only making AI to trick us, while they claim AI is making the decisions that they're just making for us. How about that? Anyone else believe that, maybe? Because what's really the AI is being focused on? Tricking us, going, whoa, that's what the AI's really been to do, right?
It's the new shiny object.
And I think that's what it is. They're using the AI, and they're gonna make great AI. But that's all to make visual and audio effects and all the propaganda, while they say, oh, AI said that we should cut the power 10% to everybody else because cancer, or something, and they go like, that's what the AI said. And the AI said it. Look, it says it on the spreadsheet here on this dot matrix printer. Look, it says cancer, got to cut 10%, something. That's how I feel like they're going to use it.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing too, the people, I don't know if it's front of mind when people are thinking about AI, but the way it thinks and the information it provides to you is somebody told it that. Somebody told it in zeros and ones what is true about the world and what is false about the world. And so, ChatGPT thinks that there are a plethora of genders, and I won't say exactly how many there are, but it thinks that there's a lot. And you just again, like, well, we can't disparage this group of people, but I have no problem disparaging this group of people. Asian supremacy is good. White supremacy, well, now that's evil and backwards. And there's just so many contradictions in it, but it's the way that it's programmed. And the people who are programming the AI are futurists. They're people who think that technology is reality. They're talking about people who have like really, really weird worldviews that don't match ours at all. And so, like, ask it to write you a letter, or maybe ask it like when World War II began. There's a lot of good and helpful things, but I mean, you guys are both hitting the nail on the head as far as like, it's being programmed by somebody. I'd rather know who that person is and see them plainly. And hopefully we get to. Hopefully,
if you control the inputs, you control the outputs, and it's like back to William Randolph Hearst, like owning the printing presses. You can control the narrative that goes out to people if you're controlling the input. And to your point, it's like if the people that are putting the information in don't have the same value set or don't have the same outlook on where humanity as a whole needs to go, then they're either going to have to steer the majority their way, or they're just going to have to do it by force. And I feel like it's going to be the slow coaxing more than it's going to be by force. And probably the PSYOP Project Bluebeam is going to happen. They're going to be like, oh my God, the aliens are here. We need a central bank. We need to have this forced United Nations. Like you said, we have to do this thing because we're all an existential threat. 3i Atlas or whatever the next one is. It's going to be a thing like that where it's like, oh my God, everybody has to be surrender. It's going to make the Patriot Act look like nothing.
Yeah.
Jake, first of all, the aliens are here.
Oh, I know.
Secondly, are you inferring like there's only two sexes? Are you like being a biologist on top of a racist, Teddy? Is that what you're trying to tell? Well, how many ists should I attach
all
to
the boxes tonight?
To your character, to your character and all that? How dare you be a biologist, you son of a gun? But no, but please, if you wanted to comment on Jake's point. I'm having a weird day today, guys. I don't know. I'm just trying to have fun with it.
Oh man, sorry. I'm sorry, Jake. I honestly lost the train of thought.
No, it's fine. I'm just wondering what the PSYOP is going to be, like what the thing is going to be to pull the stick and drop the trap and have us be like, oh shit, now we're in here. That's all.
Yeah, and I don't claim to know. I don't want to speculate or I definitely don't want to say it's definitely going to be this and just hope I'm right. But to me, the signposts are obviously going to be there of international collaboration like never before. I don't think that it can be something like a climate crisis, even if they can indeed control the weather. But not aliens landing, right? If real aliens came to Earth, they'd have no control over that. There'd be no ability. But if they use futuristic technology from some black budget that we don't know of, and they simulate an alien invasion, now that level of PSYOP could definitely work. Something like that. The other one that I think is kind of interesting, this is purely speculation, but like we have these ancient civilization sites like Göbekli Tepe. We're discovering some things about the pyramids that they may have been not have been built by the ancient Egyptians, but a civilization before them.
Likely not built by the ancient Egyptians.
I'm clutching my pearls as you speak, sir.
Yes.
Clutching my pearls.
But I mean, you can imagine too, pulling some sort of technology, but saying like, we have now uncovered this, right? Göbekli Tepe would be a really excellent one because the Turkish government, it's in Turkey. The government there has completely capitulated to an international archaeological organization. They've excavated less than 5% of the site. They shut things down. They turn it into a tourist. They're trying to turn it into a tourist organization. But it would be great for a site like that, and then to. But
good news. They did plant trees that were going to build the roots, and then they removed them. So they at least did at least intercede on that or something. So it's not everything, but it's like less of destroying it, I guess. I mean, you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Guys, there are not many white pills out there. I'm trying to find every little one I can. I'm like a pig looking for truffles, man. What do you want?
But yeah, that is, but that would be something too, where it's like, we uncovered this technology, and this is from an Atlantis style civilization. And guess what? They had AI too, and they were on the verge of some great discovery. You know what I mean? Like, to sell this idea of this ancient technology, bringing us back to our roots, kind of pulling the rug out from under you, but it would just be the next iteration of get in the pod and eat the bugs, but whatever it is, it's going to be something that they have complete control over. And I say this as well. It would not surprise me if they have 3 to 4 plans that they've got working in conjunction with each other, and they're just going to like,
Or just
when
waiting
the
for the
time comes, they're going to
opportunity.
drop the hammer on the one that has the highest chance of survival. And
Yeah,
so
100%.
the UAP hearings and the ancient civilizations and the Three-Eye Atlas and the Loch Ness Monster, you know, those are all just plans cooking in the background.
Well, there is another option real quick about the aliens is we have been in contact with them the whole time. And then we're like, hey, we're ready for you guys to show up now. Come on over. And obviously it's in some kind of collaboration, collusion of some sort in that way.
Well, until they make a treaty with the lizard people, you know, I don't
They
think
live,
we're
man.
really gonna,
Right?
yeah.
How young are you, sir? You got to be like 28 years old or something.
I'm 40.
You certainly don't look it. You look great. You guys both look great. You guys are all young whippersnappers over there.
Hey, come on now. This is all gray. All of it.
That's because you have kids, not because your age.
That could be true. No, it would be fascinating to see if there is some sort of other, if they can, like the Graham Hancock, if there's more people like that can kind of collaborate and find out that this is a cycle, or that there has been some other civilization previously without the misinformation of being, you know, a psyop. But it's like, if we could really see that there was this other civilization at this point, and they had their peak of existence, and they had this technology that was, you know, more powerful than ours, but completely different, and it wasn't based on that, to me would be really interesting to see. I mean, I don't know what that would do to a religious narrative. It may add to it, it may take away from it. That's not really, I guess, up to me to decide, but I would be really curious to see if there is some definitive proof that is found of something like that. That'd be fascinating to me, because I just think we pretend to know, and we pretend to have it figured out, and I just feel like we really don't. Like, we've got enough figured out. It's like the video game loads as you go through the game, and it's like we're in the part where it's loaded and for us, and so we think it's all the way down the road it's completely generated, and it's just not.
Yeah. I don't know how many scenes forward that in God's simulation we have. So we'll see.
Well, the thing is, aliens would be more intelligent design theory, because it's like there is the idea that there was a genetic mix of something that got to Homo sapien, because Homo sapiens brains doubled in what we would biologically say an astonishingly short time. You know what I mean? Turning from basically muskrats to Homo sapien, and even like the amount of time that took. Pretty, I don't know if impressive is the right thing, but it took a lot of interesting turns to get there, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, for me, the theory of evolution, I find that it stretches itself, you know, in a lot of different ways. And so I'm not totally convinced about it, but, you know, at least my faith tradition says you can believe in that. The where our faith tradition would come into contact with that, or at least from the Catholic perspective, is to say that you do have to believe in the first parents. You do have to believe that Adam and Eve were real people, and that if they were some derivative of primates, that they transcended not only in becoming Homo sapiens, but being the first ensouled human beings. As long as you can square that with your theory of evolution, then you're not in contradiction of at least the doctrines of the faith. And that's something that I like about Catholicism is, you know, it's not trying to, you know, I think the term that Hitchens uses was God of the gaps, you know, basically the science is taken over to this point where it's explained away all of the magic of religion. And ultimately, Catholicism is focused on who and what that unmoved mover is, and explaining that in what we would call revelation, or what has been revealed to the prophets and down through Jesus about who and what God is. And so, you know, I like that it's focused on theology and not focused on explaining, and you know, also not contradicting as well. So you can be a young Earth creationist and a faithful Catholic as well. So
that's fascinating to me. The young Earth. I mean, who's to say? I guess. I mean, it could all be fake, but what information do you
The
have that you can
simulation is only 5,000 years old, Jake. Pay attention.
But yeah, I
Man,
mean,
God,
a
you
young
guys are
Earth,
really slow today.
a young
The,
Earth.
the ancient civilization thing would definitely blow that particular one out of the water, right?
I mean,
Well,
you would think so, but you'd think there's enough evidence already on the planet that would blow the young Earth out of the water. I mean, just go to the pyramids, whether who built them or not. I mean, there's enough ancient stuff on this planet that's older than what the young Earth theorists believe.
Yeah.
And couldn't we argue though that scripture like could just be misinterpreted of the age, like 5 years or whatever could be X amount, could have been multiplications of some other time frame that they had. Like, there are a lot of rational ways to
That's
think
stretching
of
that though, to
square.
me. I mean, the same way you're talking about stretching evolution, that to me is
Well,
stretching.
I mean, the Bible's written in some codes in some places as well. So moon doesn't always mean moon, or sun, you know what I mean? Sun isn't always sun, in those types of cases. I'm trying to, once again, Jake, I'm trying to white pill, man. Why you gotta harsh my mellow, man?
We need to get Wes Huff on here to explain it to us, because that is a guy that I would love to talk to.
That would be interesting. Let's do it. Wes, I know you're watching. I know you're watching right now. Wes, just call me up. You got my number. Just give me a call, man. We'll get it set up.
Well, Teddy, what's with this new topic that you've been writing on? Did you have any sort of like wrap up to when you expect the book to be done, or are you just kind of taking it where it leads you?
Yeah, I'm still, I've got the first couple of chapters written. I'm still working through the ideas and things like that. That things are moving so quickly. The talking points treadmill is running faster than it ever has before. And really this, this phenomenon that is talked about in the mainstream media and honestly on now the entrenched legacy media on the right, like the Daily Wire and places like that are talking about this rise of the alt-right and kind of creating this boogeyman.
Once again, stop. It's the woke right, sir. I don't think you understand the woke right. The woke right, man, you will not understand. Dave Smith is the woke right. How dare you slander James Lindsay's good work on the woke right, because he got the woke left so correct that he's nailed the woke right. How dare you, sir? You slander these people. I am offended. But please continue. No, please please continue.
I could imagine that. I can imagine with this book though too, like when you get to a point where you think you're done, you get it done, you wrap it. I don't know the process. The editor goes through it, gets to publishing, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, now this thing happened. I want to add this to it. Like when is this actually done to where you can feel good about ending the book? I would feel like that would give me anxiety trying to figure out, like you said, like the treadmill's going so fast. Like I'm gonna miss something if I put this out now.
Yeah. Well, I know the end for me for this book, and I don't plan to stop writing, so I can always write a third. But for me, the end of that is really focusing and saying, okay, I wrote with Dethrone Davos, and we were kind of seeing the end of the Trump term, right in the middle of Biden and sort of Trump's resurgence, right? And we saw the playing field for what it was. And I expose the players. I tell you what's going on. I tell you how they're manipulating things behind the scenes. And now what this is like the next iteration of co-opt. And so, like I said before, there's nothing that's off the table, nothing that these people aren't willing to do and try to co-opt and buy. And I think that's what we're seeing with Trump is that, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel are responsible for JD Vance being his VP. He's a very good pick, but he's kind of beholden to them a little bit. Vance
that's why he's a good pick.
Yeah. But then he's also, very Americana, hillbilly elegy, right? So there's this good cross space. And what I'm seeing is, especially in Trump 2.0, is again this kind of like co-opting, trying to reform the system, stick with it, that he's being told by all the right or wrong people, depending on how you see, to like stay the course, try to make this work. We're gonna drain the swamp, but we've got to maintain the status quo, or there won't be, it'll blow everything up. I think that's what he's being advised right now. And the quote unquote alt-right, that is people that are outside the system, at which, what you call it, whatever you want, woke Reich, as Netanyahu calls them. But I think what it is just creating this boogeyman of people, especially younger people, especially Gen Z, who are just like, burn it all down, man. I don't want a 50-year mortgage. I just don't want the Fed ruling my dollar, like I want to unsubscribe from the system. And
that's where I'm at. I'm not even Gen Z, and that's where I'm at.
Yeah, but that's like the shock to the system that the system's not going to be able to uphold, right? If we have a 25, 30, 35% plurality of people who get behind a political party like that, and you have a candidate coming in and bringing a sledgehammer, then the system's not going to survive. And so, it goes back to that. It's the establishment versus we the people. And the establishment is coming hard to preserve their power. And they're going to do it by calling Gen Z a bunch of Nazis and pretending that this is all about anti-Semitism and this is all about, and it's just going to frame it into this thing so that people are thrown so far off of it that by the time that gets any momentum, it'll be too late.
I would push back and say that system that you're talking about that can't handle the shock, that system doesn't need to exist. I think that's the system it's imperative to be able to move forward, that system needs to go away. And yes, it's going to be chaos for a little bit. Yes, we're going to have to try and figure it out. No, nobody knows really what that's going to be like, but there's got to be some sort of reset and not the one that they're planning. I used to think that we were headed towards like an idiocracy type of existence, like that movie. But I really feel more now like it's headed towards like a V for Vendetta type of existence, more than the idiocracy. And that's a newer feeling for me. I really was kind of counting on the dumbing down and getting a toilet in my recliner. And now it's like, I'm going to be a victim of all the propaganda and control and the police state. But when you do finish that book, please come back and talk to us about it. You're always fascinating to talk to. You're obviously smarter than both of us put together. But just getting your take on these things and seeing that you're so well read and so well spoken on these topics I always enjoy talking with you.
Yeah, well, thank you. And you're far too kind. I just put up a good front.
We'll keep putting it up. What about you, Mark? Is there anything else you want to add, or you want to land this plane?
It has what plants want. What are you talking about, man? We are Idiocracy meets Brave New World meets 1984 meets Fahrenheit 9/11 meets
Blade Runner
451 or whatever that. Yeah, it meets all of it, man. We're just crashing head on. No, this has been a great conversation. I love it. I'm interested. It's interesting. The reason it's just, you have an interesting reason mind, and then you have a faith mind. And yeah, I find faith and reason to contradict more than not, but it doesn't mean anything. I've had experiences where it's more interpretation, I think. So it's interesting how people get the medium or where they get their message. And it's really,
Teddy,
it's really cool though, because
are you going to Freedom Fest, Teddy?
Oh.
No, I hadn't planned on it, but
you're gonna be there.
Plans can change. So
July 8th through the 11th, leaving on the 12th. Yeah, Jake and I have already booked everything. We've also done some podcasts on If by Whiskey. I did want to mention that about the woke right specifically. So I will say James Lindsay's work on the woke left, dead on. Those rape dog parks and the shot collars and all that, like, hilarious. But I got to ask James Lindsay the question. This is the problem. The Zionists have conflated the general anti-war movement with the woke right, because they're smearing a whole segment of people who just don't want any of the war, because it includes people who don't want their war. So it's just one of those things where it was like very clear, like, it's not enough to be anti-Semitic. You must be anti-Semitic. And you're like, Oh, is that how it's supposed to be? Is that anti-racist? Is that the anti-racist? Okay, sure,
Yeah.
sure, okay, yeah. So just
Well,
a
and
thought.
that's,
But
you
yeah,
know, I know we're landing the plane here, but that is something I want to address in the new book as well. And it's something I didn't want to try to do that with Dethrone Davos, but it's because it's so prevalent in the narrative. Uh, awesome. Hey, there we go. So, but yeah, for me, like the anti-Semitism thing, this draws back to these thrones of Davos as well. Many of them are ethnically Jewish, but they're not doing what they're doing because they go to temple and God is telling them to do so. And so many of these people are wearing Judaism as a skin suit to say, like, oh, look, fellow Jews, look, they're coming for us, And I think that's a big problem, is that people are recognizing that these people are doing what they're doing, and they're co-opting a lot of people with Jewish last names into their inverted system, into their inverted world. And as long as the knee-jerk reaction is to say, to notice is to automatically be anti-Semitic, is just like fanning the flames. If you've come to the conclusion that it's a global conspiracy and all the Jews are in on it, and Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro and George Soros and everybody of all stripes are telling you that you're evil for daring to even ask the question, then you know what I'm saying? Like that just fuels the fire. And so it's such a bizarre thing for me. But ultimately, I want to address that in the new book as well, is to say, like, look, the truth matters, and the people who are guilty deserve to be held accountable. And all of this rhetoric and nonsense, it's got to be thrown off besides. And it can't turn into 2D politics, because, hey, guess what? That's exactly what people spinning an evil narrative would want you to do, is come to the exact wrong conclusion, persecute the wrong people, right?
Yeah.
And because the people who are driving this narrative, they're going to sit back in Davos or in Switzerland or wherever the hell they are. They're not going to get pogromed. And they'll gladly see a race war and turn whoever takes the bait into the next Hitler, and they'll be persona non grata for the next century. And they'll just go right along doing exactly what they're doing.
That's the
And
thing, though. The
yeah.
Mark Levins, the Ben Shapiro, the people that are so quick to call anti-Semite, like that's an attack of diminishing return. It's like the calling
Yes.
people Nazis. It's like at a certain point, and it's getting there quickly. Like it doesn't mean anything anymore. And the problem is people who truly are anti-Semitic are like, oh man, thanks, you're giving me some cover here.
Yeah.
I think that I'm just losing my train of thought, but I think that we gotta call a spade, and we gotta be able to think critically about what's happening and pay attention to the information that we're kind of taking in here. But I do think, to your point, like there is some sort of agenda with grouping people together and trying to get them to turn against the other. And I just hope that people can kind of pull their head out and try and think for a couple seconds before you just jump on that hook and take the bait.
Yeah. Well, and just to put it very succinctly, we live in this inverted world. We live in the world of the thrones of Davos, and we are going to have to be able to defeat the evil that is in front of us without being consumed by the evil world that has been built around us. And I think that's the best way to put it, is there are going to be a lot of tangents and side roads and traps on the way to the truth and the way to freedom. And I think this is another one of them.
Very well said. Very well said. It's almost like you think we should dethrone Davos.
Almost.
Everybody check out dethronedavos.com. Check out Teddy's book. Definitely pay attention for the next book. Teddy, please come back and talk to us when the next one's done. We always enjoy talking with you, and even the more conversation when people don't agree, we enjoy also, because that's how you get to the bottom of things. So this has been wonderful. Thank you for your time, and yeah, I'm good. What do you think, Mark?
And all I got to say is, boy, do you have Christianity wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No, no. Because hey, Teddy, before I close it out, please share your socials. Share which way. How can we contact you? Please give us all the stuff. Do you have a title for your new book, or is it a little secret? So if you don't want to share that, but share all your other ways we can get a hold of you. Plus, obviously, Dethrone Davos and how to get it.
Yeah, well, Dethrone Davos is on Amazon right now. I have a really great voice actor who did the Audible, so it's not my dulcet tones. Very well done. And then, of course, it's on Amazon Kindle Unlimited. You can get it for free through Kindle if you have Kindle Unlimited. But then there's paperback and hardcover as well. So Amazon's a place to get it. If you want more information, if you're not totally sold, DethroneDavos.com. I got interviews. This interview will be going up there as soon as it's out, and I have articles, different things, good, the book trailers and all of that good stuff. And then I am on X at TeddyP1776. So that's where you can find me, and it's been a blast. I really appreciate y'all having me on, and I'll try to be more offensive next time, Mark. I'll try to come up with a few more isms for you.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to take an anxiety pill after all of this. I don't even know if I can find one anymore because I've run out. But no, it's been great, Teddy. But the problem is, I just once again I found another problem. When you do go on Rogan, he's gonna ask if you read your book, and you said no. So your next book, read your next book for your audiobook so that you can tell him when you go on his show, when Joe Rogan,
that you did your own audiobook. Yes.
That you did your own audiobook, man. Trust me, he loves that you do your own. I don't know why. He likes the Jordan Peterson Frog Boy did his. Or I'm like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, sure, maybe he got guidelines. Anyway, so once again, guys, everybody, we've got a couple things coming up here. Thank you again, Teddy, for joining us again. But we got a couple things, Jake. The 9th has hit a little snag. We're going to have a little change. We're going to have a little talk about that. Okay. Rob Yates is definitely confirmed, but Brent might be still having a Roman hangover, but he's not. He might have to reschedule. So there might be a change there. But the 10th, we're going from black pill to white pill, my friend. We're going to go the white pill box with Mark Manesca. He's coming on the 10th, right?
Yep. I'm looking forward to that.
So, yeah, that's going to be a great one. So, Teddy, any final words? Jake, any final words before we call it a day?
I'm good. I got Brent's shirt on. This is from Brent's.
Oh, it already came in. I'm waiting for a mug. I'm waiting for a solutionary mug. And I asked him to make a specific one that took parts of one thing and another, and he's going to play with it. So hopefully we'll have something new too.
Anything funny, to add, Teddy, before Mark hits his really sweet outro?
Oh yeah.
Thank you guys again. It's been great. And looking forward to doing it again.
Thank you very much.
Teddy, stick around because we'll bring you back up after this awesome thing. So enjoy it, everyone. Once again, this has been another If by Whiskey. Join us on the 10th we might push that to 8 p.m. We're going to talk about that, or the 9th, but the 10th is definitely 8 p.m. The 10th at 8 p.m., Mark Maresca, the White Pill Box. Everybody have a great day. Thank you so much. Take care, everybody. Like and subscribe. Yeah, that too. Like and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Take